we're trying to bring the notion that we have a basic set of values that most of us share, whether you're conservative or liberal, wherever you're from, and that if you understand those values and build on them, you can get to a lot of common ground on the contentious issues of our time. So it helps to be in a beautiful environment where we see things of value and we say, okay, let's build on what we value.
There's some pretty intense conversations and topics that are dealt with within this building and within this campus. Nature has a magical way of diffusing this tension, of allowing people to let go of ego, to open themselves to an awareness where there's a greater connection to each other and to the environment that at the end of the day should help us inform how we think about moving forward on this planet.
The petty little discussions and disputes you might have in Washington, D.C. or anywhere else seem to pale when you're looking at the beauty of the mountains, the foliage, the green, the river below you. You're part of something timeless, and somehow that can make you more elevated in your thinking.
This has become the annual forum for an exchange of ideas around the environment, around health, around diplomacy. And it really has brought world leaders, critical thinkers together in the most exciting forum that I've ever experienced.
You know, we tried to bring ways to compromise, the ideal of compromise, even to how we built this. So Andy Goldsworthy's stone wall has pieces of stone from conflict areas around the world, but they fit together and they weave through the building. But what was particularly magical to me is that wall is not just outside the building as an ornament. It curves into the building and all the way through the floor of the main hall.
And that was part of this whole concept of is that his river is common ground, which underpins the exact mission of the Aspen Institute.
And likewise, there's just a whole lot of spaces in this building where people can get away from their petty concerns and find a way to just have a normal face-to-face conversation.
And this was the intention from the beginning, was to allow for the space for people to connect deeply to themselves and to each other.
Herbert was one of the great leaders of the Bauhaus. He was an artist. He did tapestries. He did wonderful posters, but he also was an architect and a landscape architect.
He tried so many different explorations. He did painting and watercolor and drawing, but then he also went into tea sets and he made an atlas, and then he did architecture, he created earthworks, he was a typographer, he did design work, he did photography. I mean, those are some of the things that he did, and it wasn't that he dabbled in them, he really explored each and every one.
Herbert Bayer as an artist is really interesting to watch his career. He went from really portraying a lot of natural elements in his early work, working with topography and working with more organic forms, to becoming quite rigid and geometric in his work of the 70s.
And he had a sense of simplicity. That simplicity was the ultimate sophistication. So he had clean lines and he had beautiful geometric figures, and it made it inspiring.
The International School of Design, or the Bauhaus, was mostly about minimalism and about designing things that were in their purest forms. They were almost always flat roofed, very linear, very connected to the ground, a lot of glass, a lot of steel.
So there was very little ornamentation. It was really stripped down because they were trying to make it as accessible and as affordable and efficient as possible. So efficiency was a huge tenet of the Bauhaus. And the Bauhaus ethic is very, very centered on incorporating the environment and never overshadowing the environment, but enhancing the environment.
It was the nature of the site that profoundly influenced the way that I felt about designing this site, as much as the Bauhaus School of Design.
The buildings around here are so beloved, and to not overwhelm them, but to stay true to his own sense of architecture, but also pay homage to Herbert and the Bauhaus also would be a really daunting task, and he did it really successfully.
I told him you have to respect the Bauhaus, but you have to bring it forward. You have to say, what would Herbert Bayer be doing now? How would he be doing more shapes, more forms? But I want it to be as open as possible. And I don't want too much complexity, because the Bauhaus was about honesty.
So the entry to the building really starts from the parking lot and as you approach it. And as you walk down in a curvilinear path that actually makes you have to pay attention to where you're walking and what you see. After you cross the river of stone, you are walking past a pond of water. That water diffuses tension and allows you to shift your perception as you come to the front door. From the moment you enter this building, you are aware of your connection to the ground, to the surrounding environment, and to the sky. So your eye is always driven down, allowed to go out, and enticed to look up. You come into a lobby that's perfectly square, and in fact, a perfect cube or a sphere. So you are immediately comfortable with the geometries of the space that you are experiencing. That space is light-filled from 4 sides that changes with the path of the sun and the moon and comes alive and goes to sleep at different times of the day. The magic in this space is that the glass is north-facing. So as you walk into the building, your eyes are allowed to rest and to focus beyond. There isn't a glare factor. So in the meetings that take place, as you break out of this meetings in the meeting room, the most important time to capture people and their imagination and their ability to interact at a much higher level is right after they've been given all this food and fuel of the dialogue and the presentations that have taken place. Aspen's environment, and the Roaring Fork in particular, is very dynamic in the way that the mountains and the rivers interact around this particular valley, which creates a Drala basin, which holds a tremendous amount of energy. So it is a very creative place. It's a very vibrant place. And really, a lot of the reason why I think the Aspen Institute thrives. There isn't any structure on this campus that relates directly to that river. That river is a life flow of energy, of water coming directly towards the site. The MCNULTY room is our main meeting space in the building and is designed around that mandala form, so it sits as a mandala in the center of a circle. This room is designed so that we'll need no artificial light all day from morning until nightfall. It makes a huge difference in people's personal energy and how they feel during and after the experience of the room. I'd have to say that probably my favorite room in this building is the MURDOCK Lounge. And there's a reason for that in that it holds this painting, the Moon Bridge, and also connects most directly to the nature of the existing site, to the pond, to the Maroon Creek Valley beyond. And the wall is absolutely just perfect in its imperfection and in the way that it weaves its energy through our building. People are here because they absolutely love it. They're here for one reason: to connect to the amazing environment that is Aspen.